Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Comics. I am your host Sean Fuller, and today we're diving into another story that redefines what it means to be a hero in a post-war world. My guest today is Vaughn Coleman, the creator of Phenomenova, a powerful coming-of-age superhero story set 20 years after World War III. We haven't got to World War One yet, so too. Let's hope we don't have to worry about that. And it's a tale about legacy, redemption, and what happens when a young hero steps up to rebuild a broken world. We're also going to talk about his studio, Rebel Oasis, and his other exciting projects.
Mhm.
Vaughn Works blends action, emotion, and deep storytelling, and I can't wait for you to hear how it all comes together. So let's jump in right in, okay?
All right.
All right, Vaughn, welcome to Behind the Comics.
It's good
Let's
to be
start
here.
with the basics, right? So, what
Mhm.
first inspired you to start creating comics?
Man, that is I would say it was a number of things. I think there's an echo, by the way, on your end.
Okay.
But I think it was there it goes. Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies really and a bunch of superhero movies helped me come up with the original idea that would lead to Phenomenova for my main character, for his origin, whatever. And then I just kind of it would keep going from there. I'd watch Batman the animated series, and then that would lead me eventually to comic books. I'd get into comics. And it wasn't really until I was at film school and I was reading Chris Claremont's X-Men run where I really decided comics. This is how I want to tell this story. This is for me. Um, and it was ironically while I was at film school, pursuing that I decided to do comics.
Okay. So you start off early. I would say, what if I got it correctly? You start off in like media, seeing it in a film kind of setting, but then when you got into college, you kind of you got to see the comic side of it, and you're like,
Well, more so for the creative comic side of it. I was definitely into comics before
"Ooh,
college.
okay, okay, okay,
So I started reading comics when I was in like sixth grade. I was into superhero movies and stuff, and I was always like aware of the comics. I didn't really get into them and start reading them until sixth grade. But then I didn't start like doing deep diving runs, like really reading longer stretches of history and really diving into the creative process and really diving into the scene more head first until I was in college.
okay." So that's funny because I was gonna ask you did you grow up reading comics, or did the storytelling come from somewhere else for you, like film,
Uh,
game, or novels?
yeah, I would say like film, video games too. I really pulled from everything, animated series, a
Okay.
whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then, yeah, I think, and then that led to comics. Is probably one of the later ones I really got into, and I kind of pull from everything to be honest. But like I'm
Okay.
more into comics now, than I was back
Since
when
you
I
start
was.
working on them yourself, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little about Rebel Oasis Studio. How did it get started, and what's your long-term vision for it?
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of was seeing a lot of mainstream stuff and a lot of Hollywood stuff that I wasn't super crazy about. I
Mm-hmm.
started seeing like I wasn't a fan of like the new Star Wars movies. I wasn't a fan of a
Ooh.
lot of like current of like the current X-Men run, like House of Powers of X. Did not like that, and I was like, you know
Ooh.
what? I want to own my characters. I want to be able to do it independently. And it's Rebel Oasis was kind of a place where I could just get away and just kind of create. And then that name came to me when I was like, what is my vision for this company? And that's kind of what I want. Rebel Oasis is kind of my place where I can just do what I want and create what I want and get to own it.
Okay, so he wants to be a rebel from day one, guys. That's all I heard.
I guess I wasn't always trying to be. I honestly just wanted to do my own thing. And I guess I'm like, I guess that,
Well,
you
look at it this way. That's what a rebel is at the end of the day. Someone that
yeah.
doing their own thing and and goes
And I'm not like
against it.
trying to like it's crazy because my comic isn't anything very controversial. I'm not really doing
You're
anything
not a
too
maverick
nuts.
yet.
No, it's an all ages superhero story. It's an inspiring coming of age superhero story. I'm not doing anything crazy edgy.
Mhm.
Um, So it's kind of weird to see myself in that light, but I was like, that's just kind of an apt description of what my company was, I felt.
Okay. That hey, Virgin Atlantic, no, Virgin Studios started off with the concept of a bunch of kids were just coming together to make a studio, but they were all virgins, right? At the time, it just came to them as that, and then it just sticked.
That's
So
good.
it's not how you start; it's how you continue, right? And the
Yeah.
legacy that. So, what were some of your early influences that shaped your approach to world building and storytelling?
Um, some of my early stuff that I would say, well, I think the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, I'd watched that over and over and over and over and over again.
Hmm.
That movie is just so perfectly structured, I felt.
Okay.
I think Star Wars is pretty well structured. I think there was so many stories. There's really just a myriad of stories that I kind of go into.
So I see that you talk about these larger than life kind of stories. Like, so when you think about world building and you think about storytelling, what is kind of the stuff that draws you into the world? Is like, is it like fantasy, or is it like
To
the
me, it's
character?
characters more
Okay.
first and foremost before the world. My I always lead with my characters, and then I'll build the world. I to me, an interesting world only matters so much. Like if I don't care how interesting your world is to me personally. If I don't have characters to explore it through, and that's
Okay.
always how I start. Or if I don't start with the characters, maybe I'll start with the idea. But I ultimately the story doesn't begin until I figure out my characters, and from there the story flows.
So I feel like you're saying that you, in your mind, when you're building a comic or a story, you kind of start from a point of view kind of look, like you're just looking from the eyes of the character and how
Maybe,
they.
in a way. I mean, ultimately, when I'm writing the story, that's when I
Mhm.
get to. When it comes to envisioning, I mean, the creative process is always weird. But I mean, I think that's a fair way of putting it. You know, I came up with my main character before I came up with the idea that it was set after World War III and all that stuff. That came much
Mhm.
later.
Uh,
Um, so
It's funny because I remember how Fish, one of the guys I interviewed, and he was talking about what made him. He created Alice in the Bounty Hunter, and it was
mhm.
basically Alice in Wonderland, but the entire stuff for him was there already. He just said, "Wait, I can just plug in all this into this already
Yeah,
established story, and it makes sense." And so
yeah,
those are is very interesting when someone just starts with a character first and then kind of build up. I, it's cool. I would say
yeah.
I would say I did that too, but I was mostly influenced by what I call like the group economics. I think Five Senses is a good example of what I liked. It's like the concept of there's no one lead character,
Hmm.
or everyone's acting like a lead character, and that's kind of how I envision the entire world around it.
Hmm.
Okay, well, we're gonna switch gears. We're gonna go into the comic now. For those new
Yeah.
to the series, what is Phenomenova all about in your own words?
So Phenomenova is a superhero story set 20 years after World War III and follows the son of a veteran named Miles Henksly, who strikes out to become a hero,
Mhm,
inspired by his father and the brave heroes that fought before him during World War III. So in
mhm.
my world, we're 20 years after the fact, and he gets struck by lightning while holding a mysterious crystal. And now, with lightning powers and super speed, he sets out to become a hero. And we're going to follow him as he begins his training. And then the upcoming issue 3, which is about, it's in late pledge on Kickstarter, and it should be heading off to printer fairly soon. Well, once
We
it's
get
done,
to it.
it'll,
We get
yeah,
to
I
it.
know. I'm explaining how the story is going
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Um, that story, basically, we're seeing Phenomenova is the name of the team that he's going to be
Oh,
joining. So
okay,
we're
okay,
building into the team book, and that was the point I was making.
okay.
With
My
issue
bad.
3. Um, so that's one of the things that we're kind of doing is Phenomenova is the name of the team, but we're following one character as we build into that team. He's our entry level character.
Okay, okay. Oh man, I can think of so many stories that have a even my academia kind of has the same kind of idea
Yeah,
where you follow one character but they're coming into an entire establishment.
yeah, yeah,
It's such a good idea. So the story starts is set in 20 years after World War III. So what drew
right.
you to that time and how does it shape your character's world?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I think it came from one of my friends was like, come up with something more interesting for eWorld because I had it, and I'm like, yeah, and I thought about it a bit, and what it kind of trickled down to was, uh, this just building out my world and its history. And I was like, well, there would be. I always wanted there to be other established heroes. And I'm like, well, where did that start? Blah blah blah. And then I
Okay.
thought of the World War III angle. And I was like, that's so cool. And there were things like the Justice Society was fought in World War II. I was like, well, what if we just like did my twist on that as it's after World War III. That way I don't have to play with the pre-existing history and I could do my own. And that was really cool. And just like how superhumans could lead to a global conflict. And I was like, all right, well, this is, as I was developing that, I'm like, all right, that's got to be a prequel story at some point. That's really cool. Um, and I've really enjoyed that. And it's been a ton of fun.
I, and I have to say it, the way you structured it and the kind of the veteran father situation, as someone used to work with Veterans Affairs, I always have a very respect that I have for veterans. And it's kind of like the reason I brought it up is because now I'm thinking about your main character, right? Miles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your main character clearly has a strong family and hero motivations, right? How does his father's legacy kind of affects his choices? How does that work together?
Yeah, I mean, so in issue 1, we really see that. We see, I always say in an age of deconstruction, it's a reconstruction and a reconstitution of the superhero genre. And in that
Mhm.
respect, what I mean is he may not have grown up raised by his father, so he doesn't know all the ins and outs, but he remembers some of the lessons he taught him, and he remembers the ideals, and he wants to be like that.
Mhm.
He's angry in the fact that his father was taken from him when he was a kid, and that, but he's very much aware of the evil that lurks out there
Mhm.
in the world. And I think ultimately what we want to see is his dad grew up looking up to the heroes. So, or not grew up rather, but his dad fought in the same war as the heroes and looked up to them then. So that he passes that on to his son. And it's kind of just, he wants to be so much like them. And he
Okay.
doesn't know how. But so I think it's an aspirational story. Is really him just trying to, he sees the best of humanity in his father. And so he wants to be that for others.
That's a very interesting way of thinking about how the father role models affects the child, right?
Yeah.
Because his entire definition of what a hero is, as you're saying, is from the perspective of his dad. And that could have went any different way, right? Because we could see the opposite also being true. He could have been blaming his father for not being here for him, but he didn't do that.
Well, he would that. I mean, he could, but that wouldn't really make sense
Hmm.
to me because his father was killed in the terrorist attack. So it was
Exactly.
like, yeah. I mean, I guess, but I'm just kind of sick of stories like that, to be honest.
Yeah. I actually, you know what's funny? I actually like that concept because to me, I was trying to focus on in other stories I want to build the
Yeah.
concept of having a strong male father figure that
Hmm.
actually pushes the character in a specific direction.
Right.
And so I like the fact that that's here and you're exploring that theme a lot. So you explore
Hmm.
the theme of failure and growth, especially when Miles fails to stop that nuclear reactor, right? The heist. So how important is vulnerability in your hero story or journey?
Vulnerability. I would say that's an interesting way of asking that. I guess it depends. I don't really see how important of a role does vulnerability play. Is an interesting question I hadn't thought of, but I guess
Hmm.
it's just a human thing.
Hmm.
I don't think it's his. He is vulnerable, but it's a matter of being strong. It doesn't mean like hiding your weaknesses, but you don't want them to see you sweat. And I think he rushes in and immediately you see all of his sides exposed pretty early. We're kind of beating the weaknesses out of him. Not saying he won't ever have weaknesses, every hero does, but we're kind of exposing his weaknesses early on with the first 2 issues, and then in the first story arc, he's really getting his licks in before he gets stronger. But I'd say we really rip your heart out and let it bleed onto the page, his heart out, especially with the first 2 issues. And I think that was the point, is to really get you invested in this character, so that way you want to see him become stronger. You see the strength behind his vulnerabilities, and now you
Hmm.
want to put the strength before the vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities will always be there, maybe less so, but it was more about, okay, how do we make him stronger? Not even in spite of these vulnerabilities, but because of these vulnerabilities.
It's shaping diamonds at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Every chipping away at it. How does failure influence growth? Each person has their own way of dealing with that. Some people go into a cycle where they
Hmm.
just keep repeating it, but they can't seem to get past it. Some people break past it. So that's a good way to see it. All right, so I have a lot more to go into, and what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take a small commercial break. It's going to be like 20 seconds. Don't worry about it. And then after that, we're just going to go into like your creative process on your team. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Give me one moment.
This video is sponsored by MyComic.ai, the first of its kind platform built to solve real struggles comic creators like us face. If you've ever felt stuck trying to make consistent sales from your work, this is your solution. MyComic.ai helps you turn your comic into a real business and grow it into a full-time income stream. Check it out today at MyComic.ai.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Now we get back into the story. So right now we're at the creative process. So one thing I always like to find out is each person's creative process, right? So building a superhero world after a major war sounds intense. So how did you balance realism with the larger than life elements of a superhero?
I take the realism kind of from like the character standpoint and how they act is the
Hmm.
most important thing. Like I said, I always lead with the characters. To an extent, you want to balance realism. Like I'll give you an example. Like I had there's a fusion reactor in issue 3, and that's theoretical more so, but it is based on some processing science. So I had, friends and I who know more of the subject would kind of talk about it. And well, here's how it would work. Okay, but here's how I see it in fiction. Where's the balance? That kind of thing. And obviously, if you go too crazy into the science, I kind of lose my fun of it. I was horrible at science
Yes.
growing up, horrible at it. So I know my limitations. I know what I'm not to. But you don't want to break immersion necessarily,
Mhm.
but some levels of breaking immersion are okay. So it's kind of figuring out the balance.
Yeah, and I get it, and that makes perfect sense. So what does the creative process look like for day to day? Do you write? Do you storyboard? Are you collaborating closely with your artists? How does that look for you?
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds weird, but it really depends on the day. Some days I'm
Hmm.
mostly just like yesterday. I was really writing a lot.
Hmm.
I'm also balancing between many different projects, off maybe too many sometimes. But I think my artist will send me some stuff. I'll be like, "Hey, this is good." Da, da, da. Okay, here's a note. Check that. Here you go. Often with my script, I'll have notes to my artist. We'll do a little back and forth. 90% of the time, like what he comes up with, I'm happy with. But they'll be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this needs to look like this. Hey, I'm trying to evoke this feeling while what you drew is cool. It doesn't do that." And so I'll go back and forth. My artist will kind of I'll give some notes. Okay, applied it. What do you think of this? Oh yeah, that's pretty good. I like that actually. Oh wow, you did that. That's often how it'll go. Similar with my colorist. So having a dialogue with your artist is very important. I feel it was always extremely important to me, and
Okay.
I
So
think my artist and I have grown better as a team and communicators.
I think that's listen, and one of the stuff I always want to point out when I have this specific part of conversation is like, guys, it's okay to have a team to work with you on these projects. You don't
Hmm.
have to do everything yourself. Because
No, you shouldn't.
I, I've met people, especially when I first started doing this interview series, where I reach out to people and they haven't really started their stuff yet. They'll be obsessed about just doing everything themselves. I'm like, I haven't done this. I'm like, you can get a team. Just
Hmm.
do the part that you're good. Even if you're not good at writing, just get someone that writes.
Yeah, or yeah, that's a lot of people think anyone can technically write, but not
Mhm,
anyone can write well. And we've
mhm.
seen that a lot, and that's me being on. I hired an editor to hire editors, guys. Not just I am available for hire, but I also just hire editors in general because like every great comic you read, I promise you there was a good editor. There was.
Mhm.
You know, um,
Eh, It,
anything on my shelf here, right? Denny
it's,
O'Neill was here, right? Like this is not. You need good editors. It's important.
it is important, and it's I would say this as my project grows and every one project I've seen grows, it's like the editing process to bring out the best comic is phenomenal. And some people would say it growed over time to be they took out certain stuff because of that editing process. Like,
Right,
yeah,
all the time.
yeah, because people think it doesn't need to be wordy. Sometimes the picture can carry it.
Yeah,
but
you
that
just
would require you. Yeah, but that requires a lot
most
more writing than you think.
or yeah, exactly. People don't realize like, oh well, you didn't write that many words. No, often I'm writing tons. Sometimes I'll write not a lot. My artist will add a lot, but often all these little details. Often I will put that in as the writer. I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
this. Even you
that's.
throw out extra details, even if your artist doesn't use it, just in case. Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, like, I'll give you an example. There was something I wrote that was I thought was easy for myself to say, and I see my artist draw something. I'm like, what? And then I look at what I wrote, and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally wrote it. Like I could totally see. I saw it in my head one way, but I wasn't specific enough. And sometimes that, and again, you have to have those human interactions because I've had, even as an editor, I've had read scripts. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And he goes, they explained it to me. Like I'll have a phone call, and they'll explain it to me, and I'm like, yeah, I can see how you thought that makes sense. It doesn't. You know. I'm like, here's how it looked at to me as an outsider. And they go, oh, okay, I didn't even think of that way. Having conversations with people, even not just your editor, throw your stuff around other people, you know?
And it's funny when you say that because I literally, and I'm still actually doing it. I'm working on one of my second comic groups, right? Actually, third. And the poster section of it, I told them from the jump. I'm like, I know what I want. I just don't know what to tell you how it works. It's like I want a feeling to be expressed, but not necessarily know how to articulate the
And
feeling.
sometimes it's okay to let the artist just do that. As long as you
Yeah,
tell them this is how I want them to feel. And often they'll do it. And then if they send you something and it doesn't work, then sometimes that's when the specifics that you were waiting for come to you. Is when you know what you
exactly.
don't want. Then suddenly that forces you to realize, well, what do I want? So
Exactly. And that's the part where I think a lot of people need to go through the process of because it's like it's only through those interactions that those fine-tuning moments come through where you're like even when you're
100%.
at the end you be like I love we're entering this process. I don't like this. But it's
Yeah.
not because you didn't do a good job. It's more like as I went through the process I found out what I really wanted and it wasn't this.
Right. Right.
And it's okay. You have to pay more for that, but still it's okay.
Yeah.
So, what have been one of your biggest creative or logistical challenges in producing Phenomenova?
I mean, figuring out the whole printing process and bleed lines and a bunch of stuff like that. Figuring
Mm,
out how to wrangle a team. Figuring out how to meet although I've been pretty good with deadlines for the most part.
mm,
That juggling a bunch of different creatives, I would say streamlining work. Like for example, with my editor, God, I felt so bad. I'd be like, "Hey, I need this. Oh, jumping back and be like, all right, dude, just give me a new version." And it's once I start editing for other people and I realize how chaotic my process is, you know. And I'm like, okay, that juggling talent, communicating with creatives, I would say, being a better business manager.
mm-hmm.
I would also say figuring out what sells and what doesn't. um, Realizing how many aspects there are to running a company and running a business and promoting, how important promoting is insanely important.
Hey, I literally built a company around the concept of addressing that because I know
So many
when you
people don't understand how important promotion is. Like it is.
it's but the thing is promoting each promotion is different, right? So a creative process that what we go through as creative comic artists is a completely different process than if I'm doing like a what do they call it, like a teaching book like on sales for example. That's a completely different process. And so because one your what do they call it, your headline makes a big difference in terms of what you say. So it is true the business side of comics is ridiculously hard, but once you figure it out, then you understand how Marvel became Marvel.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's I'm glad you shared that with everyone. Listen, guys, for people that's been around the boat, I talked to people that's been doing this for 20 years and even longer, and some of them will tell you that it's all about being in front of your audience.
Hmm.
If you go to Comic Cons, I know I met you at a Comic Con, and it's
Yeah,
like you kind of know because the benefit of sitting in front of someone and talking about your book is a benefit to get to listen to the keywords that they're saying. What did they say?
yeah.
How did they classify your book? Oh,
Right,
and then you kind of realize that the reason why people are buying your book is not necessarily why you created it.
right.
So, and then just understanding the logics of that conversation is great. And as you said, you learn to streamline your process because you were realized by working on other people's project that your process needs to be streamlined. And that's all of that
Right.
is systemization. So guys, it's okay to start. Okay, let's start. You'll
Mm.
get there. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Rebel Oasis Studio and other projects you have. So you tell us about your second project, Reaper in Pursuit. How does it differ from Phenomenova, both in tone and world building?
Yeah, I mean, so Reapers in Pursuit is a short story prose collection. So it's like, it's like horror stories, like it's
Okay.
written. Um, and it was, I had a bunch of people, my friend Allie and I, we had a bunch of people submit to us. We had a prompt. It was Reapers in Pursuit. It was not, it didn't have to be literally about Reapers, but it was whether it's the fear of death or from the perspective of a Reaper, quote unquote, pursuing something. It was that kind of thing, and we went into it and it was great. I really I enjoyed it, and I decided I had a character that from my Phenomenova universe that I wanted to introduce, and I was like, he's not going to be able to introduce for a while, but it's one of the original characters they came up with when I was a kid, and I was
Mhm.
like, this he'd be make for a great horror story. So I paid for artwork of him. He's going to
Mhm.
make his first debut in this short story collection. That should hopefully. Right now, I have a sign up on Indiegogo. We're figuring out what exactly to do with it. But the best way to keep up to date with everything I'm doing is go to my website, go to my email list. Um,
Actually, we go actually going to ask you to bring that up. So,
yeah, but
if
that's the best way to keep up with Reapers in Pursuit and really everything I'm doing.
mhm.
Um, is that's it. And then there's another I wanted to do like a bad girl book, like a that kind of comic book, and I again, I don't have the money for that right now, or I'm not sure if I'm ready to fully invest into that. So I was like, I'll come up with a short story and a character design, so that's in there. And then I have a bunch of other stories that I'm doing, and like, so that is some of my favorite writing I've ever done has been there. I really
Oh,
like writing prose, so if you like horror, all the stories are self-contained. You don't have to have read Phenomenova if you prefer that, or if you
mhm.
have read it, Reapers in Pursuit, you'll be like, oh, there's a new character from the universe. Regardless, this is just something completely different. I also do have other stuff coming to my universe. I have other projects within the Phenomenova universe, so, and then also something that's outside of it. So tons of stuff in the work and tons of stuff within the Phenomenova universe. So make sure to check all that out. So
Uh,
much I can't talk about yet, but
it's fine. It's fine. I ain't gonna make you spill too much tea
yeah.
today. So, how does your work at Rebel Oasis Studio help you connect and empower other creators in the indie comic space?
I mean, I've had people tell me that they're inspired by what I do, which that means a lot. Like, I can't tell
Me,
you what, like, seeing you do it, like, inspired me. I'm like, really? Like, me? Okay. So that's great. Um, I love to, employ people when I can.
hmm
Obviously, the bigger my company gets, I'd love to bring in more talent and pay more talent and whatever. But the better I do, the more I can do for myself, which means the more I can do for others.
hmm
So that's kind of how really lately I've been just figuring out, ultimately everyone goes in thinking, oh, I want to save the comic, and you get humbled. You look at profit margins and stuff, but
It's a humbling experience, right?
I want to do the best that I can do with what I have.
So here's a question for me. So you mentioned your campaign across Kickstarter, Global Comics, and Indiegogo. First of all, I'm going to ask you
Fund
what
my
have you?
comic too. Fund my comic as well.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
all right. And what have you learned about connecting with your audience across these platforms? But also, if you want, you can also bring up a part of this conversation, your Kickstarter, for example, so people can see it while you're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of learned that like everyone has stuff that they prefer, but ultimately people they want the product at the end of the day. But you want to make
Mhm.
sure that your backers, the people that back you early on, do feel special. You want to make sure that there's something for everybody. Fund My Comics, some people prefer that platform, so I made sure to go on there as well.
Okay.
Um,
So how many I mean, ask a quick question. How many platforms do you raise your comic book at simultaneously? You just do one at a time, like you sequence it, or you do them all the
I
time?
guess. Well, right now it's on both Kickstarter and Fund My Comics, so whatever you
Okay.
prefer, it is there.
Okay.
But I decided Indiegogo is basically the same audience as Fund My Comic, and I was like, Fund My Comic will take a smaller percentage. That might change in time, but for now, I don't have issue 3. I don't have on Indiegogo.
Got it.
at the
Oh, let me
current.
bring that up. I'm gonna bring that up real quick. Sorry, I just saw it and I was like, I should bring that up. Bring it up.
But when it
On
comes,
the stage. Wait, where am I? Wait, where am I not? Oh, you need to present, I guess.
I am presenting.
There
There
you
you
go.
go. So I decided to have some exclusives for backers. Like, okay, I'll bet day one backers get an exclusive free trading card, and then also there was the 48-hour cover, which you can still get if you back all 6 covers. But
Hmm.
all these covers will be limited, and once the campaign is done, of like whatever leftover ones I do have will be very limited and will be sold at conventions for a higher price. But I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that everyone who backs the book before, because you're paying for it before it's essentially done, you're funding the production, that you get all sorts of bonuses.
You incentivize in early adoption.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
hey, when you do this long enough, you kind of understand the lingo, right? And see,
Yeah,
guys, you can support him on Kickstarter. I always
yeah.
even for me, my project starts tomorrow. Shoot, I almost been that long.
Wow.
Tomorrow Kickstarter. So it's been a process, a humbling experience to kind of just go through this process, and then as you go into it, you kind of just be like, how much more days are left on your campaign?
Well, my campaign is has this is funded as just on late pledges right now, but
Okay.
it should be like basically what I'm gonna do probably within the next couple of weeks or by the end of the month is shut
Mhm.
this down and then send it to the printer, and then that means all the exclusive, all the rewards gone. So if you want any
Okay.
of that, and if you want it
All right.
before anyone else, this is the place to go. I also on my website everything is 20% off, including merch. And if you want digital copies cheap, the cheapest way to get issues 1 and 2, you can either read them on Global Comics or you can get the PDFs for just $2 for an issue for 1 and 2. So if you want that, that's on my website, Rebel Oasis Studios, or you could get it all on here. So whatever you decide, you can get.
All right, that was such a phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, so here's my next question. Going into like the wrap up session, right? So, my next question is: when readers finish Phenomenova, what do you want them to walk away with, feeling or thinking?
Well, I mean, to finish it, it's going to be a long time before that happens. You know, I have my first story arc, and then I have many, many story arcs I'm planning ahead. I already want to start writing my next stuff. I already have plans for the future and tons of stuff. But I guess you know what I want you to feel above all else is entertained and inspired.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to feel like I want more. I want more of these characters. And by the time I guess the series is over, it would just be like, wow. I want them to feel. I think superheroes are at their best when they make you feel good about the world and humanity. And I don't like when you just go, man, this sucks. I don't like that. I want people to see the inherent. I think that's what I ultimately want is something uplifting, something entertaining, something that makes you feel inspired to either create yourself or share your love of creating stuff or share or go, yeah, I can see the hero in myself. I can, how do I bring what these characters taught me into my everyday life? I guess is ultimately what I want. Because I think that's kind of what I pulled from with my stuff.
And now, you remember the question I asked before I started, right? So the question I always like to ask my guests is your quotable moment. What would you like um, future comic book creators, especially trying to go to the production like you are right now, to take away from the process? What would you want them to know as they get into it? What is your quotable to them? Word of
You
advice.
have to want this product to get out there so badly that you'll push through all of the menial tasks because you see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Hey, I've never seen someone use that word. Oh, it's yo. Say it again. I don't think they heard that. Say it
That
again.
was off the cuff. Yeah, you have to find like that was just there's going to be so much you have to do. You have to just see the end in sight. And no matter like, because I didn't know how many of these little things I'd end up doing and how much longer the process would take than I wanted. You have to see
Mhm.
that light at the end of the tunnel. It's kind of like how I feel about my superheroes, actually. That's my message, too. The superheroes is no matter how dark it gets or how annoying it gets, you have to keep pushing because you see that dream of yours on the other side.
Hey, Hey, the way he said it, man, I wish I could have said it just good, man. It was eloquent.
Yeah,
When they said push through the mediocre tasks, because God, man, you feel them when you're doing them. You're like,
you do. You're
it's
like,
like
but if you have
what?
that thing pushing you, you can get through it so much faster and so much better. Or even if it doesn't go through faster, it'll get you through it.
You get to it and you learn, and and it's kind
You
of
learn.
like systems are built as a process of eliminating remedial tasks for more high income, high earning tasks, and but those tasks are still relevant. You're not gonna get the big checks because you skip the small steps. That no, it
Right.
doesn't work. So finally, where can people find your comic, follow your studio, and stay up to date with your future projects? Where can we
Well,
find
like I said, rebeloasisstudios.com. You can go there. My socials, I'm Vaughn Coleman or Vaughn M. Coleman or a bunch of stuff where you can find Rebel Oasis or Rebel Oasis Studios
you?
on different social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, my YouTube channel. You name it. Global Comics, you can find Rebel Oasis Studios on there. I'm all over the place. So I make it easy to find me. So
So guys, as information will also be in the description below. um by all means, he's a young, great, talented guy. You see that he's working on a lot of projects. He keeps his head on the ground and in the clouds. So
thank you. That's good. I'm going to use that.
so thank you very much for taking the opportunity to talk to us today. Vaughn, you've been an incredible conversationist. Phenomenal feels like
Thank
the
you.
kind of story that reminds us what heroism really means in a world of revealing itself. For everyone watching, please be sure to check Rebel Oasis Studios, support Vaughn's work on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and Global Comics, and follow along for updates. I'm Sean Fuller, creator of Apollo's Run and host of Behind the Comics, sponsored by MyComic.ai, where you help creators grow, analyze, and monetize their comics. Thank you for staying tuned and keep always supporting your Indigo Comics swoops. This was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.